This is Victor Tiffany, Progressive Examiner, talking today with Dimitri Cherny, who's running for Congress in South Carolina's 1st District. Dimitri, thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Let me begin with a first question. You obviously support Bernie Sanders for president. What does his political revolution mean to you?
I think it's a much needed thing that we've probably put off as long as we possibly can. Really, when you look at the big picture, things are failing. Our monetary system is failing. Our environment is failing. We need to make changes quickly, or civilization just plain isn't going to last a whole lot longer. So I see that as the revolution, and all of my millennial friends that I've been talking to see it exactly the same way. This is our last ditch effort to get things right so that civilization can continue eventually.
And aside from the democratic socialist agenda he is articulating, what specifically would you see a political revolution accomplishing? In other words, when will you know this revolution has succeeded?
When I feel secure that my great-grandkids will have a life as good as or better than mine, I think we will have succeeded.
All right, let me address campaign finance. Would you support a constitutional amendment that would overturn the Citizens United and all related decisions? In other words, going back in one direction to Buckley, where the court essentially amended the First Amendment by equating money with speech, and going back another direction to the 19th century, where the court illegitimately granted corporations the rights of individuals. Would you support an amendment that would overturn those two court-established doctrines?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to look at the whole chartering of corporations and what we allow corporations to do, because they've really haven't had enough oversight is the bottom line. But the number one thing, as Lawrence Lessig used to say, there are plenty of things that are more important, but nothing should be done before we get money out of politics.
Yeah, that was his. That was what he was trying to do, and of course, the DNC made every effort to keep him out of the debates. Talk about climate change for a second. That's obviously very important. Would you support mandates on automobile and recreational vehicle manufacturers who either are here in the United States or plan on selling their vehicles in the United States? Would you support mandates to compel them to have their vehicles run on an alternative sustainable energy source, something other than fossil fuels?
I think that's a worthy goal. I don't think that's the right way of going about it, though. I drove big rigs across the country for 2.5 years, and one of the things I realized is America is highly reliant on liquid petroleum fuels, and the only way we're going to overcome climate change is by replacing those liquid petroleum fossil fuels with liquid petroleum carbon neutral fuels, biofuels. And that's really the only way we could do it. I think what would be better, I mean, if we had to do a brute force enforcement, some sort of executive order or a law that could get people to switch over to biofuels, it would be aimed at the oil companies themselves. And basically you say, after this year, you can only pull 25% of your oil out of the ground, and the rest of it, if you're going to sell it, has to come from non-food biofuels, which basically is going to boil down to biomass and algae. And there are plenty of ways to do that now. Lots of companies have been experimenting with it. It just hasn't been scaled up yet. But we could easily, within 5 years, replace all of the fuel, all the gasoline, all of the diesel in the United States with biofuels if somebody just put the hammer down on that.
All right. Would you support an increase of taxes on the top 1% of income earners in the United States, whether that's income or capital gains?
I I would, but it for probably a different reason than what you're thinking. Taxes at the federal level don't actually fund federal spending. Income taxes, corporate taxes, they don't fund federal spending. What taxes do is they provide a thermostat on the economy to keep things from heating up too much so you don't have price increases. And they basically engineer society so that we can modify people's behavior based on taxes. For example, 30 something years ago, I got married in December rather than in January because I was going to get a tax benefit for getting married in December. So I thought I'd do that. I mean, people's behavior is modified by taxes. The question is, what behavior do we want to modify? And I mean, one of the places I would start modifying behavior is in the obscene quest for wealth for no reason other than growing your bank account. That an awful lot of people that are in the banking industry, basically in Wall Street, are doing, and to no benefit to anyone else in society.
Well, to that end,
I would rather. Yes.
Yeah, to that end, what would be the top marginal tax rate you would support?
I question whether any job should pay more than the President of the United States. I mean, think about it from the point of responsibility. Which job on the planet has more responsibility than any other? And arguably, the President of the United States has the most responsibility. So he makes $350,000 or something like that. And why should anybody be making more than that? What I'd like to see is a ratio. Basically, we have a minimum wage. We should probably have a maximum income where people can't make more than, let's just start with a number of 100 to 1. So if the minimum wage is $7.25, that means you can make in a year 40 hours a week, about $15,000. So 100 times that would be $1.5 million. Why should anybody take home more than $1.5 million a year? So that's what I'd like to see. So it's not so much taxing people to fund federal spending, because it isn't. We don't do that. It is taxing people to refocus Americans' values on something other than just getting rich.
Are there any issues, any policy positions Senator Sanders has taken that you disagree with?
No, I like pretty much everything that he's doing, what he stands for. But I'd go further, as you can tell from the answers to my last couple of your last couple of questions.
A couple of questions combined into one. When is the last time there was a Democrat elected in South Carolina's 1st district, and who are you running against?
The last Democrat that was here ended his term in '81, and I think he was a Dixiecrat. It was long before I got here. I think he was a Dixiecrat, so essentially he was a Republican. You know how the Republican and the Democratic parties, at least here in the South, flipped alliances back then. The incumbent I'm running against is Mark Sanford, and he was our governor here for a while, and he became famous for hiking the Appalachian Trail, when in actuality he was down in Buenos Aires with his girlfriend. So
the Appalachian Trail in Argentina.
Yeah, exactly. So he was tapped to run again for the same seat that he had held before he was governor in 2012 in a special election, and 2013. And he, can you hear that cat in the background?
That's all right.
Yeah, okay. She wants to go out, but we're almost done. So anyways, he got back into his congressional seat, and people here seem to like him. But in South Carolina, people like pretty much anybody that has an R after their name. So I have a real tough uphill battle ahead of me.
You do, and I appreciate your time today, and good luck.
Well, thanks, Victor.